Hey there everyone, and how are you guys doing today? I am Joe Martin, and welcome to another video from Mobile Cup of Joe. In this certain video here today, I'm going to be giving you my full review and thoughts of the HTC One Max on Verizon Wireless. So as you can see right here, just from my hand, this is a very monstrous device. We're looking at a 5.9-inch 1080p Full HD display, and as you probably saw right there when I flipped the phone around, there's a little square below the camera lens. That's actually a fingerprint sensor which allows you to unlock the phone and a few other certain tasks by just simply swiping your finger across the back of it. So is the HTC One Max the next phablet for you to get? We're going to find out right now in my full review, which is starting right now on MCOJ. But before we go any further, please go ahead and grab that coffee cup, fill it up, bring it over, and sit on down. Take a swig from your Mobile Cup of Joe. Alrighty, so without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into my full review for this giant smartphone right here. I'd like to give a big thank you actually to our pals over at Verizon Wireless for hooking us up with the HTC One Max and allowing me to review it for you guys today. So as with all my reviews, let's start out by talking about some design and build quality aspects of this device. So as I mentioned before, the screen is 5.9 inches, and if we look below that, we do have our Verizon logo with two capacitive touch buttons, the back button on the left and the home button on the right. If we go on to the back, we have our camera, fingerprint sensor, HTC logo, 4G LTE logo. There's a lot actually for the design I want to talk about. First of those things, actually, let's go ahead and talk about that fingerprint sensor, the big thing right there on the back. Below the rear-facing camera is a little black square, and that acts as the fingerprint sensor for the HTC One Max. So actually, let me go ahead and add the fingerprint scanner in there because I believe I have it turned off right now. So we go ahead and enter a password real quick just so we've got that in there. So let's say, for example, that I want to unlock the phone with my right index finger. Well, I'm going to go ahead and select that. So now when I turn the phone off and I go to unlock it, I set this up earlier, I can take my right index finger. Okay, no, don't do that. So I can take my right index finger and swipe down to unlock it just by doing that. Now, while it did work that time, there are a few instances where it will not work. So you see again there, it's working fine. If I swipe again, it's working good. It's actually working exceptionally well right now, but I have had some instances where it just will completely not read my fingerprint at all. So I can go ahead and swipe it over it, and it'll say, fingerprint not recognized, please try again. Again, swipe, fingerprint not recognized, please try again. It's a bit finicky with stuff like that sometimes. Again, you see it did it right there, but it doesn't always get it right away, and that's a bit disappointing. You know, while it is still cool to have it, it just is very inconsistent, and also the placement is very weird. This is a very large phone, and you're most likely, at least for my normal case, I would hold it in this hand, and one hand while operating with the other. But the way it's placed on the back like this, HTC kind of assumes you're going to hold it with one hand with your index finger stretched way up here. And if you have smaller hands like I do, that's kind of a bit of a cumbersome task. So the placement of the fingerprint sensor isn't all that good. Sorry, my phone just went off right there. Placement isn't the best, and the actual functionality of it isn't that great. It's kind of an interesting thing that HTC tried because it seems like every OEM now is trying to throw in a fingerprint sensor to their devices after Apple's iPhone 5S. But unfortunately, the execution here just isn't that great. Now, one area of execution, though, that's phenomenal is with boom sound. Boom sound does make an appearance back to the HTC One Max. You can see up top, we have our front-facing speakers, and on the bottom, we have them there as well. And since the width of the device is bigger here on the One Max than the One Mini and the original HTC One, the sound is even louder and bigger than it was before. Let me go ahead and swipe to unlock real quick. And let's go ahead and hop into Google Play Music, and I'll play a little audio sample so you can hear just how well the audio really is. We're going to go to Sounds of Awesome, and let's go ahead and find a quick song. We'll go classic right here.
Carry on my wayward son, there'll be peace when you are done. Lay your weary head to rest, don't you cry no more.
So you can see the audio from Boom Sound is just phenomenal. We saw it first on the original HTC One, then on the One Mini, then on the One Max here. Every time, it just blows me away. Easily still the best speakers of any mobile device out there. Boom sound, one of the best features of any device in the HTC One family. Now, moving on to another more of a build quality aspect of the device. While this is aluminum right here, it's not a unibody aluminum design like we saw in the original One. The design for the One Max actually resembles more that of the HTC One Mini, because while there is aluminum on here, we see that the frame is actually made of this kind of soft touch plastic. And we can even remove the back cover here with this little kind of switch thing here. Just pull that down and the back actually pops off. And while you do not have access to remove the battery, you do have access to a SIM card, to your SIM tray, along with a micro SD card slot. You have 16 or 32 gigabyte storage variants for the HTC One Max, and you can expand it up to 64 gigs with that micro SD card slot. So that's a very nice feature to have right there. It would have been pretty neat to see the ability to remove the battery and replace that if your heart so desired, but it is always a very welcome addition to see a micro SD card make an appearance on a device, because that's really a feature we don't see all that often anymore. So it is nice to see that here on the One Max. So again, you don't get all aluminum for the device. There is some plastic on it, but it is still very much aluminum. It's still pretty hefty in the hand, so it does still feel like a very sturdy device. Now, as for that screen, it is way too big for comfort. You can see that, who was calling me right now? That's a bit annoying. I apologize for that. But the HTC did move the power button to the side. If you remember from the original HTC One, it was on the top. We do have our IR blaster here now, but it is now on the side like it was on the One Mini. So it is easier to access that, but the screen size is just still far too big for really practical use. You just can't get your hand anywhere over the entirety of the device, and that really is a bummer. The HTC One Max is just far too big really for any real world situation. Now, while we're talking about the display, let's talk about the resolution. This is a 1920 by 1080p Full HD resolution here. LCD 3 HD technology that we first saw in the HTC One, and it is still as beautiful as ever. The LCD 3 technology, that panel that HTC uses, still looks so darn good. The pixel density isn't nearly as high as it is on the One Mini or the original HTC One, but this is still a fantastic looking screen right here. Pixel buffs, may not have the highest pixel density, but there's no denying this is a gorgeous display right here. My phone is going off the hook right now, so hopefully that kind of quiets down a bit. While we're talking about some specs, so let's go ahead and talk about the processing power. The HTC One Max is packing in a 1.7 gigahertz quad-core Qualcomm Snapdragon 600 CPU, along with 2 gigabytes of RAM. So it's not packing in the Snapdragon 800 chipset that is the biggest and the baddest of all the processors out there, but let's turn that down a bit. The Snapdragon 600 is still a very capable machine. We'll go ahead and go into career. We'll play some Riptide GP2 here for you guys so you can kind of see how it performs for gaming. In my time with the One Max, I found that the 600 chipset performed relatively well. I will say that I noticed there were some instances, if you can say that word correctly, when swiping through blink feed or my application drawer, or even a bit of stutter when opening up a brand new application. And I also noted that in Yahoo Weather, when you're trying to scroll through the weather information, it was very stuttery at times. Now on my Motorola Moto X, I have no stutter whatsoever for the application, but on the One Max, I did find that there was quite a bit of lag going on. Now, if that's because the application is not optimized for this device, or because there's some sort of software issues going on with HTC Sense 5.5, I'm not sure, but I did notice that there was some lag there, and you kind of saw there, for instance, we were getting a bit of a hold up from the frame rate from Riptide GP2. So again, you can see that if just swiping through home screens is fine, blink feed runs good. It's not a slow device, but it just doesn't always feel as fast as your other big flagship devices, because you don't have a big flagship chipset running in here. Now let's go ahead and talk about those cameras. On the HTC One Max, up top we have a 2.1 megapixel front-facing camera, and moving on to the back we do have a 4 megapixel ultra-pixel camera with LED flash. Now unlike the original HTC One with the 4 ultra-pixel camera, that phone would shut up. The original HTC One did have optical image stabilization, or OIS for short, but the HTC One Max does lack OIS, or optical image stabilization. So that means that low light photos don't look quite as good, and if you're kind of have shaky hands when you're taking pictures with it, it will be more blurry than it was if it did have OIS. And picture taking is kind of cumbersome here on the One Max, because you can see if we open up the camera app, while you do have access there, just because it's such a big body and such a big frame, it does get a bit shaky at times when trying to take a picture. Now, the actual shooting camera app for the One Max is pretty good. You have HTC Zoe right here, which makes its appearance back. You have Zoe, Night, HDR, Sweet Panorama, Dual Capture, which allows you to record with both the front-facing camera, as you can see right there, and the rear-facing camera for those like 5 of you out there in the world who actually use this feature. You know what, you do have it there. I've never really found this feature all that useful, but if you want it, you got it. You can go ahead and take a selfie, like that right there, and take a picture of my table at the same time. So if you like the feature, it is there. You also have things, image adjustments, crop, self-timer, and if you go here, you have access to your flash. We'll go ahead and get that dual recording off there because that's a bit annoying. And if we click this icon right here, we do have, did dual recording go away? Dual capture? Let's back out of it because that is acting a bit weird right now. And if it'll accept my fingerprint, don't you love live recording right there? So if you go back to the camera application and we click on this icon down here, you will see that HTC has thrown in some effects for the camera as well. We have kind of this distort mode right here. We have this funky little thing. There's a bunch of fun little effects HTC has included for the camera app that do make picture taking a lot of fun. As you can see right here, I will put some pictures up for this part of the video now so you can get a real idea for how the image quality does look for the HTC One Max from the camera. All those pictures are looking at right now, a majority of them were taken with the rear-facing camera, give for some selfies that I threw on there. But image quality was actually relatively good. It's not the best smartphone camera we've seen out there, definitely not the best, but it's far from the worst too. I was able to capture some really good pictures with the HTC One Max. I was also able to capture some not so great pics, so it's kind of a hit and miss with the camera. I really would have loved to see optical image stabilization make its way to the camera, but that's just something we didn't get with this phone. If we had got it, image quality would have been a lot better in some situations, especially with it being such a big display and being such a hard phone to handle with the shakiness of holding it. OIS would have really benefited the camera here, but with its lack of appearance there, still relatively pleased with the camera quality we got out of here. Again, you can find better in other handsets, but this is not the worst camera we've ever seen on a smartphone. Now, as I talked about that battery earlier on, that right there is a 3,300 milliamp hour non-removable battery, and although it is non-removable, you really should not have any hard times at all getting through a few couple days of use with this device actually. I've gotten through 2 days of full solid use with this phone. I've had this on standby for kind of almost a week now, and I'm still looking at about 51% of battery life from 70% or whatever. All in all, no matter what, no matter details or whatever, this is a really, really strong battery. Even though you have all those pixels going on that giant display, battery life on here is phenomenal. This is some of the best battery life I have used on a smartphone in really quite some time. So if you're a real power user, you consume a lot of content, consume a lot of media, do a lot of emails, a lot of social media, take a lot of pictures, rest assured the HTC One Max will have you covered for lots of battery life. Now let's go ahead and talk about some software for the HTC One Max. The HTC One Max is currently running Android 4.3 Jelly Bean with an update to 4.4 KitKat on its way in the near future, and we also have HTC Sense 5.5 on here. Now, as you can see, if we swipe over to the left, we do have blink feed on here, like we usually do. But with blink feed, we now have the option to turn it off completely if we want to. So if we hold down on the home screen, you can see that it says blink feed on. If we want to turn that off, we can absolutely turn it off right there if we don't want that feature. But I go ahead and keep it on because that's a nice little tweak they add. So HTC Sense 5.5 is actually a pretty good skin for Android. It's relatively smooth. I like the icon style that HTC uses for their native applications. I like the application drawer layout, how it says vertical scrolling. You can even go in here and choose, it's in alphabetical right now, but you can go to custom to how HTC has it set up where all your Google apps rather are in this folder, your media content is in this folder. I just really do like how HTC lays out their application drawer right here with that running time and weather right there. Blink feed is a pretty good kind of second home screen. Like Samsung has My Magazine, Google for the Google Experience Launcher, the Google Now Launcher has Google Now Access to the left. Blink feed takes your favorite news sources, social media updates from Google+, Facebook, all that, your calendar, and adds it to this very beautiful kind of second home screen. You know all about Blink feed right now. But it still works really well. I still really do like Blink feed. If we tap on highlights, we can actually choose if we want our gallery, calendar, Facebook. So if I click Facebook right here, it will update Blink feed for me. And it should show me, yep, all my Facebook updates right there. So if you just want to see a certain update, so say I only want to see things from The Verge right now, I can click on that and it'll curate my Blink feed, and I will only see updates from The Verge's website. So overall, I really do like HTC Sense 5.5. If you pull down, we go into here, you see that you do have a change in design for the icons right here. Again, this is nothing new. I just like touching on this stuff right here. When you go to settings, you can see HTC has, like always, added their own flair for the settings. If you go to personalize, you have things like wallpaper, customized home screens, all of your normal stuff, nothing really too fantastic right here. If we go to fingerprint scan, this is where we can actually choose the settings for the fingerprint sensor. So from here, you can actually learn up to 3 fingerprints. So yeah, we're going to quit this. So right now I have my left index finger to unlock and launch the camera app and my right index finger to just unlock the phone. So I can actually choose to launch the voice assistant on here if I want to, or I can choose from all applications, and you can use a certain finger to launch any certain app that you want. I do like the aspect of the fingerprint sensor on the One Max. Like I said earlier though, I just wish it had been implemented better into the device. So as it stands, the HTC One Max, while it's not a bad phablet, it's not a bad smartphone, you can do a lot better. I reviewed the Samsung Galaxy Note 3 a few months back, and that had a 5.7-inch display, which is just 0.2 of an inch smaller than the One Max's display. And that smartphone was a lot more compact. The HTC One Max, it has decent processing specifications, love the boom sound, decent camera on here, incredible battery life, but the design, the screen and the build of it is far too big. You do not have all aluminum on here. There is some plastic that might turn a few people away. The display looks great, no denying that, but the camera is subpar, the processing power is subpar, and the fingerprint sensor is really just poorly implemented, and again, that screen is way too large for any real practical use. So if you love big phones, I would consider looking at the One Max, but I just feel like you can do a lot better out there. I just feel like, while I love big displays, I love big smartphones, the One Max just feels far too big, and there's no real optimization for that large display for multitasking like we see Samsung do with multi-window in the Galaxy Note line, the Galaxy S4 and the S5. There's no true multitasking or really any use of advantage for that larger display here on the One Max. So for those reasons, that's why the HTC One Max, it's not the best phablet out there. Again, if you really, really like big phones, you're really intrigued by, if a HTC One but just enlarged with no features added sounds like something you would like, definitely check out the One Max. But if you do want a big smartphone, you want true multitasking capabilities, you want a smartphone that is really truly great in every aspect. It's got a big display, but it's still compact to carry. Unfortunately, the HTC One Max is not for you. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching, for taking the time to watch my video review. If you have questions about the HTC One Max, please let me know about them in the comments below, and I'll do my best to get those answered. If you have the HTC One Max, let me know what you think of my review of it, and be sure to subscribe to the channel right here to ensure you never miss a latest video from me. And if you stay in touch with me even more, make sure to follow, circle, and like Mobile Cup of Joe all over Google+, which is my preferred method of social media for the channel, Facebook, and Twitter. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.